In Austin, the Mercedes team, led by the unstoppable Lewis Hamilton, faced a catastrophic disaster when he was disqualified from the race. His struggling teammate, George Russell, teetered on the brink of a similar fate but narrowly escaped due to sheer luck. The stark contrast in performance between the two this season has been astonishing, especially considering that just a year ago, Russell celebrated his first victory only to be consistently outperformed by his relentless teammate in subsequent races. George Russell may have given the rest of the grid a warning for the sprint weekend, but the question arises, should he be the one who needs to exercise caution? In this discussion, we will explore the threats facing every team this weekend and the specific challenges George Russell must be mindful of. Stay tuned. The races are coming thick and fast, and the United States Grand Prix in Austin already feels like a distant memory, even though it occurred just 2 weeks ago. The FIA's disqualification of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc for technical rule violations was a major point of contention. Their cars exceeded the allowed limit for plank wear during the weekend, leading to questions about whether other cars should have been subjected to similar scrutiny. If Lewis Hamilton was in violation, it raised concerns about George Russell and even Carlos Sainz. However, no further disqualifications or rule changes arose from these questions, and the racing community moved on to the Mexican Grand Prix. Now, we are gearing up for another sprint race this weekend. During sprint weekends, teams have limited time with only FP1 to fine-tune their setups before entering parc ferme. In contrast, traditional race weekends provide FP1, FP2, and FP3 for adjustments. This reduced time, combined with the constraints of parc ferme, contributed to mistakes made by Mercedes and Ferrari in Austin. Sprint weekends pose a unique challenge in that teams must ensure their car's plank does not wear more than 1 mm throughout 4 competitive sessions, compared to 2 sessions during traditional weekends. The cars take a beating as they navigate the track, including taking curbs and generating substantial downforce. George Russell has issued a warning to the rest of the grid, suggesting that scrutineers may discover cars exceeding the plank wear limit after Sunday's Grand Prix in Interlagos. This presents a considerable challenge, as the conditions can change rapidly, affecting plank wear. The FIA's decision to check more cars in Austin was influenced by feedback from sensors indicating greater vertical oscillation, which essentially means more bouncing than usual. While the track in Sao Paulo is in better condition than the Circuit of the Americas, it still poses challenges. Teams are likely aware of the FIA's increased vigilance, and the consequences of rule violations will be significant. In Austin, Mercedes sought a competitive advantage by running their car much closer to the track surface than Red Bull, but the strategy did not pay off. The RB19 does not perform well with a high ground clearance, potentially making Red Bull vulnerable to only their second loss of the season. George Russell clinched victory in last year's Brazilian Grand Prix, marking his maiden Grand Prix win. However, this year, circumstances are different, and his performance has fallen short of expectations since that victory. When he secured the sole win for Mercedes last season, many saw it as a sign of his ascent in the team, potentially to replace Lewis Hamilton in the future. However, his subsequent form has failed to match the standards set by his 7-time world champion teammate. In 2021, George Russell made headlines when he publicly criticized Valtteri Bottas, who was then driving for Mercedes. This came shortly after Russell's collision with Bottas at Imola, where he even slapped the Finnish driver's helmet while he sat in his damaged car. Russell expressed, "He's in 9th position, he should consistently contend for podiums and victories in every race." Ironically, Russell would later replace Bottas in the winter, setting high expectations for himself due to comments like these. Initially, Russell appeared to be living up to those expectations. In 2022, he managed to outperform Lewis Hamilton, winning the Drivers' Championship by a margin of 35 points and securing Mercedes' only victory. This achievement was notable, especially considering the differences in car setups and experimental parts, and the fact that he was competing against one of the sport's most successful drivers. Less than a year ago, the sight of George Russell atop his Mercedes W13, after winning his first Grand Prix in Sao Paulo, ignited immense excitement in the Mercedes garage. The future appeared promising for the team. However, since that time, it has become clear that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. In races following their successful campaign in Brazil in 2022, Lewis Hamilton has consistently outperformed George Russell, with only a few exceptions. In Mexico, Russell narrowly avoided being overtaken by Daniel Ricciardo, who could have passed him if the race had gone on for another lap. A week earlier at the Circuit of the Americas, despite both cars receiving the same significant floor upgrade, Hamilton outperformed Russell in both the sprint race and the Grand Prix itself. Russell finished 7th on the road but moved up due to disqualifications ahead of him. Russell's single podium finish this season is disappointing compared to his teammate's 6. It raises the question of whether Russell should reflect on his comments from Imola in 2021. Costly driving mistakes, reminiscent of the one in Canada, have plagued his year, with a hard collision into the wall leading to retirement, while Hamilton finished 3rd. In Singapore, Russell tapped the wall and crashed, once again allowing Hamilton to secure a 3rd-place finish. Some have referred to this as the Hamilton effect, as consistently outperforming Hamilton has proven to be a challenge for any teammate. Even champions like Jenson Button, Nico Rosberg, and Russell managed to beat him only once, with Rosberg immediately retiring afterward. Even the supremely confident Fernando Alonso faced challenges in 2007 from the rookie Hamilton's sheer pace. Russell's success last season was attributed to his ability to drive an underperforming car after 3 years with Williams, racing backmarker cars. In contrast, Hamilton had enjoyed 8 years with the best car on the grid. The W14, this season's Mercedes, is notoriously challenging to drive, and Russell has struggled to match Hamilton's pace most weekends. Russell attributed his frustration at not being able to compete for wins in a Mercedes as a factor causing him to overdrive the car, potentially affecting his mental approach. Russell acknowledged, "It was clear from the beginning of this year that we were not going to compete for a championship. I don't know if that has influenced my mentality or not. However, it is essential to remember that every F1 driver pushes their limits. The true mark of greatness lies in pushing to the limit without exceeding it. Competing with Hamilton for a title would undoubtedly be a spectacle, but this is an attitude that many of Hamilton's previous teammates have brought to the table." George Russell once said, "On good days, I could beat Lewis, no problem." However, he recognized that Hamilton's consistently high performance level presented a significant challenge. It's easy for outsiders to judge Hamilton's teammates, but until one is in that situation, it's challenging to understand what it feels like to give your all and still be defeated. Russell was in that position in 2021 when he made those comments about Bottas, but he likely now grasps the reality of competing alongside Hamilton. Perhaps it's time for him to heed his warning. The question remains, can George Russell ever outperform Hamilton over an entire season again? And will we witness more cars being disqualified this weekend for technical regulation violations? I'm eager to hear your thoughts and perspectives. Please share them in the comments section below. Also, remember to subscribe to the channel for notifications on our future uploads, ensuring you stay informed about the developments in the 2023 Formula One season.